So there is a concept in philosophy and studying it that you can find called phenomenology. It is basically understanding that the facts of things do not necessarily determine our experience of them. So, for an example, when you say are using your computer and you're typing on your keyboard and you're interacting with it, after a certain point, you stop paying attention to the computer itself. You stop paying attention to the screen that you're looking at. You aren't perceiving the screen as a factual screen, but you are perceiving everything coming off of it as an experience. You aren't perceiving your hands on the keyboard once you get used to it. You just start typing. It's not something that you have to consciously decide to do or be aware, oh yes, each one of these individual keys is something that I have to perceive. And it can go even further than that. So, for instance, say you see something and it's something that you associate something with, then automatically that association comes into the experience, whether it necessarily should or not. You could say, hey, when I was a kid, I got in a horrible car wreck, and part of the car wreck was those big piles of logs with the like cut up ends. And so now every time I see a big pile of logs like that, or every time I see a truck carrying a big pile of logs like that, I automatically get a little like, oh no, there's nothing dangerous, there's nothing about to hurt you, but you still have your hackles rise. And in factual, experience, if you only focus on facts, it's just a pile of logs. But you have other things that are associated with those logs that come into play. People do this all the time with interactions with each other, and people do this all the time with money. When we're growing up, we get taught stuff about money, even if our parents never sit us down and talk to us. We perceive, oh, my parents always stressed. And part of it seems to have to do with how much they're making or how much they spend. Oh, my parent always just seems to think things will work out and doesn't really pay attention to money or how much they spend. You pick up on cues and you start to associate certain experiences and perceive certain things, even if it's not reality, based on your experiences with money. Oh, my parent, they always had a backup plan. And they didn't trust money. Money was something they had to conquer. It wasn't something that, they used. It was something that they made sure they were ahead of so it didn't use them. There's so many concepts, and some of them are just common phrases. We say, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that. And they're very set in stone phrases. They don't offer any percentage of error. They don't offer, hey, there's opportunities or options. They're just matter-of-fact statements. We treat money in a very non-factual way, and we treat it in a very based on our experiences way, which is why I say money's emotional, and the emotion it should make you feel is secure. If it's not making you feel secure, then there's definitely reasons for that. And my goal always with helping people with their budget, with helping people to understand how to do anything with their money or that they can invest, that anyone, no matter who you are in the United States, you can start a Roth IRA and you can have some non-taxed money in your retirement. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a cool job. You could be a gig worker. You can still have a Roth IRA. And I wish more of this fact-based money understanding got put out there, because when you look at the facts around money, it's a lot less terrifying. But because there's so much emotional distraughtness about money, it can really deter people from taking action. There are people with such deep-seated emotional reactions to talking about finances that they have panics. I remember the first time I tried to sit down with my own, mom to do budgeting with her about her and my dad's spending. Not my birth mother, my stepmom, who I call my mom. The more we picked up things for looking at, the more she was uncomfortable. I kept being like, okay, well, where's the bill for this? Don't you guys have this? Oh, you need that too? And every single time it was harder and harder. She got to the point where I don't think she could hear anything I was saying. After a certain point, she just couldn't hear anything. This year, I was so proud of my parents because they finally sat down, paid for a couple of hours with a lawyer and with a financial advisor. They do not pay by percentage. Any financial advisors who charge you a percentage, it's probably a scam. But they paid per hour and they got their finances in some sort of order where they're gonna be okay for the rest of their life. But my mom doesn't think so. My mom's terrified about it. When they retired, they didn't really retire with anything. And now they are set up where they should be okay, but it doesn't feel that way to her. And so she's still scared about it. To this day, she's scared. Laying out the facts helps calm her down. Laying it out in really, really just basic addition, basic subtraction numbers. Don't add anything else in there. Let's pretend interest isn't in existence for a little bit and just talk in really, really simple terms, really factual terms, and show the margin of comfortableness with how likely it is that they will have enough money until they're super old. It helps, but it takes a little bit to get there because there's an initial barrier of phenomenology, of interacting with a physical, factual, tangible object and experiencing it in a non-factual way. I very much make these videos because of how I grew up and wanting to help people because I have had to overcome those same kinds of hurdles in my own life. It wasn't until my 30s that I could start to overcome some of the hurdles. And thank goodness when I was a child, I overcame some of the hurdles. But man, it took a long time to get to the point where I could even attempt to have an interest in investing. I don't want everyone else to be that same way because the system's broken and the system is daunting. The financial systems that are in place are very overwhelming, and as far as I can tell, it is intentional to keep a certain portion of people lower so that a certain portion of people can be higher. It's almost as if the people who designed the system genuinely believed with all their heart that some people have to be lower so that others can be higher. They seem to view the universe as a financial pie, and that there's only so much money in the barrel and it has to be divvied out in certain ways, so some people are going to get lots and some people are going to get a little. That's not exactly correct. That's not exactly how finances work, but the system does lean toward that direction. And if you already have the single system hurdle that you don't get other financial options unless you live in a commune that does all bartering or something, the majority of people don't have other options. The financial systems in place, broken or not, are the ones that they have. So don't add to the difficulty by having emotional hurdles to jump over and emotional hoops that you force yourself to go through. Think about the things that you learned about money when you were growing up. Think about the way that your parents acted about money when you were growing up. Maybe you didn't grow up around parents. Maybe, I don't know, you had grandparents raise you, or you were raised in a foster system. Whatever it is, you were still around some adult at some point, and that adult expressed something at some point about money. And whether you've ever correlated the two or not, it impacted you. think about the way that you treat money now. Try to take some of the emotion out of it, some of the experience out of it. You can't take all of it out. Money is emotional. Money is a mirror. It reflects whatever is going on with us very accurately sometimes. Like acutely accurately. So have some respect for the fact that your emotions are going to be there. You're human. You have feelings. It's going to happen. But try to temper them, because the more you attach experiences to something that's factually happening, the more you're going to mislead yourself, and the more struggle you're going to have with setting up actual financial systems that can work for you and help you not be at the bottom. I want so much for the gap between the insanely wealthy and the insanely poor to be made smaller and smaller, for that gap to become less and less. And some people, they go for top down. Let's convince all the rich people to donate and to give to charities and stuff like that. And they've been doing that for so long. Like, since the early, I don't even remember. Like, Ford is one of the guys who helped invent foundations. Now there's foundations everywhere. Have they worked in the last almost 100 years to fix stuff? Not really, no. So relying on that doesn't make sense. So my goal is to help the bottom people come up. You don't have to be in the bottom. You matter. You don't deserve to be there just because that happens to be where you are. And it's meant to be temporary, and we can hopefully work together to help you make some strides forward. Every single video I make, that's the goal.